Okay, welcome back to Courtney's Diary. This is very diary-like. I feel like I'm a little closer to y'all now. Um, okay, so today I want to talk about, so I titled this video, Are You Being Pushed or Pulled into Your Vision? So that's what I'm going to talk about. So when you think about a vision for your life, it's like, grand, and it probably includes everything that you love doing, whether you like traveling or whether you like, shopping for other people, like personal shopper or something like that. You like cooking, you like working out, training people. I don't know. Whatever you probably think of when you envision and have a vision for your life, it probably involves all the things you love to do. So I'm going to talk about how I experience both. I experience being pushed into something and being pulled into something, and the effects that it had on me. So very quickly, excuse me, very quickly, when I think about being pushed into something, it reminds me of like just basically doing what you have always been told to do. Like, so you've been pushed into going to college, you've been pushed into getting a job, just like a standard career job after college. You've been pushed into basically doing everything that probably society says you should do. Not saying that's bad, because clearly I do it and I have done it, but you probably, and I'm looking at my notes, but I'm also going to refer to my journal because this is called Courtney's Journal. But when I think of being pushed, just for the purpose of this video, you're probably being pushed and you're making goals from your ego. And that's a whole nother topic. But what I've realized and what I've learned is when you make goals from your ego, it's probably to have you feel like more secure in yourself, or you get a sense of who you are from the goals that you make. So if I have a goal to go to business school and then I want to get out and I want to be like a VP or a director in corporate or whatever, that's probably a goal I'm making from my ego. It's going to give me a sense of who I am to be a VP, to have an MBA. And I admit that when I went to grad school because I was totally confused about what the hell I should do with my life. But also I was making goals from my ego. Yes, it's cool to have an MBA, but like, I think I just wanted to have an MBA. Like, and that fulfilled my ego is what I'm saying. So I was pushed into that. Nobody made me do it, but I personally pushed myself into my MBA program, and I went ahead and got the MBA just to say I have it. Like, and I mean, I have had experiences that, when you went to business school and you learn things in corporate, you learn them maybe if you didn't have it. But all I'm saying is that's how I define being pushed versus being pulled. I guess you can say this YouTube channel is an example of me being pulled into, like, I'm free, I'm open, I'm making a decision to do this based on my creativity, based on expressing myself, based on sharing information with y'all, whoever watches it, whoever comes to my Instagram page or listens to my podcast. Like, being pushed into a vision is when maybe you're trying to fit your life into like a box for yourself. And being pulled, I think, is when you kind of are genuinely curious, like, what would my life look like if all I did was like make YouTube videos and create content and write for people, be a freelance writer. Like, what if I just fueled everything I love to do and made it a career for myself? So that's what I'm gonna talk about when I say being pushed versus being pulled. So when you're pulled, you're just genuinely curious. And you also feel like you're pulled to a higher purpose for your life, which would absolutely dissolve your ego and you making like a sense of who you are based on outside things. So let's get into my story really quick. When I was pulled, it started in, like, I would say around this time in 2017. So August to October 2017, I was just very, very, very confused and very, very foggy on where my career was headed. this is not a shock since I've always been a person that has been bouncing around from different jobs, different industries, different career paths, things like that. So August 2017, I was very confused, very just like, I felt bleak, like very bleak about what I was supposed to be doing next with my career. So I was an analyst at my current job. Like I worked basically in merchandising and I was in Excel all day and my job was very boring, to say the least. So I was in a corporate environment, but I was not doing, I guess you could say, work that is in line with who I really am. So I felt inside. So I'm going to talk about how I felt, what happened, and how I knew that I was fulfilling a more purpose-filled career track once I let that vision inside pull me. So I was being pulled into the next position. So you know how jobs work. You have one job and then technically there's another job you can get promoted to, and another job and another job and so on. So I was very torn up and confused inside because I was being pulled meaning like everybody says I should, or it would just look good on the outside if I will go into this next position as a promotion as an analyst. But I felt also pushed and curious about what would happen if I started to, one, write more, exercise like, my gift of writing, communication, speech, and things like that. I felt inside curious and pulled to a vision of like, well, what if I just like broke all this shit down and started to do what I love and like kind of try and find a career, my next career move out of that. So that's how I felt. Totally torn, like waking up every day, going to work and just being hella confused. So that's how I felt. And the next thing I said was, how does it feel? So on one side, when I was being pushed meaning fit myself into this box of this, pristine corporate analyst, like everything looks good on the outside when you're being pushed, basically. It's like inside, it's like what you think you should really be doing, but subconsciously, you're only doing that because it looks good and probably what it looks like on paper or whatever. So when I was being pushed, I was comparing myself to other people. I was nervous. I was scared. I was just like very also like dead inside. If I could be honest, like as far as creativity goes at work, like you spend a lot of time at work. And even if you don't have a conventional job, maybe you're an entrepreneur or whatever, you spend a lot of time working. So why not make it something that, one, you're good at, and two, that you love to do? Whole point of everything I talk about on this channel probably, or on my Instagram or whatever, it's absolutely 100% possible to not hate what you do and like have no complaints about it. So how does it feel? That's how I felt to be pushed. Now, when I felt pulled, like I felt curious. I felt excited. I felt nervous and scared, yes, because it was something new. I felt like, okay, I know I'm great at writing. I know I'm great at this, but I felt nervous and scared because I was like, how can I switch this and it actually be something I do for a living? Like, how can I make this my money-making job? I felt nervous and anxious, but also, the expansiveness and like the like curiosity, it kind of shadowed over me being scared of taking myself out of my comfort zone, basically. So if that makes sense. Have you ever felt anxious, like, but it's a good anxious, like, I know I'm doing something new and I'm so damn scared, but it feels so good to be doing it. So that's good, because that just means that you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone or just putting yourself in new situations so that when you're called to have that opportunity, you're ready because you've already dealt with those feelings, if that makes sense. So that's how it felt. And when I was being pushed, it felt like I was just being forced and convinced, like, so when I was being pulled, it was like an attraction. So an example is this. When I was thinking of just like letting myself be promoted into like the next analyst role. It was just very, I didn't come across any information. Like at work, I had to like find this manager, set up a coffee time with them, basically like network inside of work. I went on a couple interviews within my company, but I was just like, I would not be happy doing these jobs. So like, I was just like faking myself out. Versus when I felt like this internal stirring to write more, and to start a blog and to like figure out how to market myself as a freelance writer and to start write for businesses. It's like all of the information came at me out of nowhere. Like one day I would like wake up and I would see somebody on the internet talking about how they did it, and then I would get more information. I would listen to like a podcast. I started to listen to so many different podcasts that talked about people, how they started their businesses and what they went through, the feelings, and also the action that they went through. And I just got information that felt like it was dropping out of the sky when I was actually being pulled into my vision, if that makes sense. So that's how I felt. And then what happened? What happened when I was leaning more towards making the decision of being pushed into it? I always just found things that I hated about my job, and like work was just very miserable, or like small drama things would start popping up at work, and it was just very like hard to deal with, as far as like when you know inside you kind of have another option and you can do something else. It's like you're like totally out of alignment. Like it's like this was the line, and like I was like going the wrong way. Like, you know what I mean? Like I just totally felt out of alignment when it came to fitting myself into this role of like, okay, I'm just gonna be this pristine corporate analyst, blah, blah, blah. I can do this, I can suck it up. Anytime you say I can suck it up, that's your clue that you should not probably be forcing yourself to do it. So what happened? That's what happened. At work, when I was trying to fit myself into that mold, I just found 1,000 reasons to hate it. Versus when I actually made time to like write and start my blog and do research and like fill myself up with more creative work, everything at my day job, at my full-time job, started to flow more. Does that make sense? Like once I started to actually dedicate time to what I love to do, I had no time to be miserable and bored at work, because I was so filled up with the joy of doing what I love to do on the side. It didn't bother me, basically. And so I wrote, how do you absolutely know? How will you absolutely know that your inner vision is pulling you? Like pulling you as in like in a good way. So you'll just like have an inner, I want to say it'll be just like an inner like hunch. Like an inner like, it'll be so pressing to where if you don't start or if you don't do it, it's going to cause you even more like angst inside. So it's just going to take over, and like you'll get more ideas. Like I started to wake up in the middle of the night. So what I'm talking about is my journey to starting my blog and then starting my business. So it went a little like this. I was working as an analyst in Excel all day. I hated it. And I just started to feel inside. My vision was like, Courtney, you've always been great at writing. You've always loved writing. Like you've always loved PR, communication, marketing. You've always loved the creative side of business. And you know how to, you know, what it takes to run a business. And you know the like business part of business, if that makes sense. But I've always loved the creative part of business. So I had an idea to just, the first pull was to just start a blog. And that would give me just more like, I guess you could say exercise in me writing again, because I hadn't wrote in a long time. So I started a blog, and that started me to like, I just started to like write about my like journal and write about what I was doing around Atlanta. And then another light bulb went off where I was like, okay, if I can write my blog and I'm good, excuse me, and I'm good at writing and blogging or just like marketing writing, I can do this for other businesses. I can do this for other people. So I had a second idea once I kind of just started to let the vision pull me, is to just market my work as a freelance writer. So from there, I started my business where I was, and I still do, freelance marketing writing for clients, like in their business, their products, and I help with their marketing campaigns as far as all of the content writing goes. So that was my second pull. So my third pull was, okay, at this point I was doing it on the side, but I also was still doing my analyst job at my day job. So my third pull was like, okay, wait, what if I figure out a way to do this at work, like at my job that I wake up and go to every day? Like, what if I figure out a way to just start practicing in all areas of my life, like practicing my vision and like practicing my gifts and stuff and like that. So I started to like poke around and ask around, like, okay, how can I write at work? And then I found internally like the team that does all of the like marketing content, the videos and stuff like that. And they were actually looking for a copywriter. And this was last year. So that's what I did. Like, I emailed the manager and I was like, basically like, hey, please meet with me. Because at this point I was like hating my analyst job. Like, I hated it. But I was writing on the side and getting clients and stuff. So I was like, okay, let me go ahead and align everything across the board in my life so that I can just have more freedom and more joy to be who I am, honestly. So I met with him, and I mean, long story short, I got the job. Like, I got the job as a copywriter at my day job, and that aligns with my freelance business. So I let the vision like pull me, because technically, if I was gonna be pushed, I would not have my job now. I was gonna just be promoted and be like an analyst and like basically be in a whole different department that I don't even care for. Like, you know, that I have no like feeling for. Like, I felt dead inside. So does that make sense? Like, I just kept being curious. And that is the action step that I say. Like, I say, just stay curious about anything that comes up inside related to a new direction in your life. Nothing is a coincidence. Like, nothing is a coincidence. And that's what I've learned so far. It's like, it wasn't a coincidence that inside randomly I just wanted to start writing again. And that led to me starting my freelance business. And that led to me writing full time, like getting paid a salary to write. And that led to me like just having more ideas on how to shapeshift my writing and practicing and turning my business into like a production company now. So it's like, if I would have just ignored the pull inside, I probably would be in the analyst position, and I probably would not have started my business, and I wouldn't be here on YouTube, because I would have never had the idea, because I wouldn't have been happy enough, and I would have just been like drinking a bottle of wine every day after work. Like, I would have just been like very, very still like bored and stuck with my life if I would have not like followed that internal curiosity. So that's what I said. I said to just stay curious about anything that comes up inside. When you know you want to have a new direction for your life, just be a little curious. Like I said, take classes, go to events, like reach out to people that are already doing what you want to do. Just start. Like, that's really, I had to get over like researching and analyzing and telling people about my idea. I just had to start the blog to practice writing, and then the next idea came to me. And like my idea now, as far as like, you know, my vlog and like creating more media as far as video goes, that idea came to me just by like being more in the trenches, you know, like being more in the field and like doing freelance work and business work. I just discovered more of what I love to do, which is like video and like vlogging and like web series and things like that. So that's the whole point. It's like to go beyond the limits you set for yourself, because 9 times out of 10, if you're being like pushed into something, it's probably because you think it's right based off of like, you know, what society says or what you feel you should be doing. But being creative and like following that as a career path, like there is no blueprint. So you're always going to have to just go with how you feel on the inside, because when I first started, and I still do it, when I first started to write and do my business, I would always look for a specific answer. Like I would look for a yes, or I would look for a confirmation, but it never came, because that feeling inside is confirmation and validation alone. Like you don't need anyone else or any blog post or any podcast or anything you randomly see or hear to validate the inside feeling that you have, if that makes sense. Like I just had to go against all of the like fears and anxieties that I had of like putting myself out there, and or even just like being a writer. I was like, there's no way I can be a writer like in a corporate job, but everything is literally possible. Like as far as like once I started to follow how I felt inside to get there, you know, if that makes sense. So what I put on my computer is, I put the main point is just follow that internal guidance that you have. Like maybe you just have this very small idea. You can start with doing that. My very small idea was just to start writing again, because I had not wrote in like years, probably like 5 or 6 years I hadn't wrote. So I started to write again, and I started to just combine what I love to do with what I was already good at, and I'm still doing that. So I'm not at an end point. I'm just sharing my experience on how I was letting my vision pull me instead of being pushed into something that I knew I was not anymore. So I hope y'all like it, and subscribe to my YouTube channel.